The sound of Elena's body hitting the marble courtroom floor would be replayed on every news channel in Florida by sunset. But in that moment, as she crumpled under the force of Jade Morrison's shove, her hands instinctively protecting her 7-month pregnant belly, only one person in the courtroom truly understood the magnitude of what had just happened. Judge Raymond Castellano gripped his gavel so hard the handle cracked. "Order!" His voice cut through the chaos like thunder. "Bailiff, restrain that woman immediately." Peter Crane, millionaire real estate developer and Elena's soon-to-be ex-husband, actually laughed. Straightened his $5,000 suit and laughed while his pregnant wife struggled to breathe on the cold floor. "Your Honor, I'm sure it was an accident," Peter's lead attorney said smoothly, already spinning the assault. "My client's companion simply lost her balance in the crowded aisle." Lost her balance while deliberately shoving a pregnant woman with both hands. Judge Castellano looked at Elena on the floor, saw the pain flash across her face, saw her fighting tears while trying to appear strong, and felt something fundamental shift inside his chest. 23 years of judicial restraint. Gone in an instant. Because that wasn't just another pregnant woman being abused by her husband's mistress. That was his daughter. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this explosive courtroom drama, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now because this story is about what happens when a millionaire who thinks money buys everything discovers that justice and family can't be purchased. This is going to be intense, so let's get into it. 60 seconds earlier, everything had seemed routine. Judge Raymond Castellano sat on the bench in courtroom 4B, presiding over what appeared to be a standard divorce hearing. He was listed on the docket as Judge R. Williams, using his mother's maiden name, a practice he employed when sitting in lower courts to avoid his reputation as Chief Justice of the Florida Supreme Court influencing proceedings. But there was nothing routine about this case. Not when the petitioner was Elena Castellano Crane. His daughter. The child he'd lost contact with 18 years ago when her mother had vanished during a custody battle. He'd found her 6 months ago, purely by accident, when a law clerk processing routine filings had noticed the name. Elena Castellano Crane. Daughter of Sarah Castellano, deceased. Raymond had spent 18 years searching. Had exhausted every legal avenue, hired the best investigators, never stopped hoping. And now here she was, sitting at the petitioner's table with a court-appointed attorney who looked fresh out of law school, fighting for her life against a man with unlimited resources. He'd arranged to be assigned to this case. Had pulled strings, called in favors, ensured Judge Morrison would call in sick that morning. Because his daughter needed protection, and Raymond Castellano hadn't been able to protect her for 18 years. Today, that changed. Elena sat straight back despite her advanced pregnancy, wearing a simple navy maternity dress that had probably come from a department store clearance rack. Her dark hair was pulled into a neat bun. Her hands rested protectively on her belly. She looked exactly like her mother had at that age, beautiful, strong, and trying desperately not to show how terrified she was. Across the aisle sat Peter Crane, flanked by 3 attorneys from Morrison, Stewart and Associates, one of the most expensive firms in Florida. His suit cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. His Rolex caught the courtroom lights. Everything about him screamed money, power, and the absolute confidence of a man who'd never been told no. And beside him, not even attempting discretion, sat Jade Morrison. 26 years old, bleached blonde hair, designer dress, and a smirk that said she'd already won. "Your Honor, Peter's lead." Attorney began, standing with practiced smoothness, "My client wishes to present a generous settlement offer to expedite these proceedings. Mr. Crane is willing to offer Mrs. Crane $200,000, sole custody of the minor child, and continuation of her health insurance for 6 months, provided she signs a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement." Raymond kept his face neutral, but rage simmered beneath his judicial mask. 200,000. For a man worth $50 million. For 4 years of marriage. "Mrs. Crane," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "Do you wish to respond to this offer?" Elena's young attorney started to speak, but Elena placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. "No, Your Honor," she said clearly. "I don't accept." The courtroom stirred. Peter's attorneys exchanged glances. I'm entitled to half of the marital assets under Florida law, Elena continued, her voice steady despite the slight tremor in her hands. My husband is attempting to buy my silence regarding financial misconduct, multiple affairs, and emotional abuse. I won't be silenced. Raymond watched his daughter stand up to a man who'd clearly spent years breaking her down, and felt pride surge through him. Those are serious allegations, Mrs. Crane, he said carefully, maintaining judicial neutrality. Do you have evidence to support these claims? I do, Your Honor. Elena pulled out a folder with shaking hands. Bank statements showing my husband systematically drained my personal accounts without authorization. Emails documenting affairs with at least 5 different women over the course of our marriage. Photographs of injuries he claimed were from my clumsiness. And sworn statements from 3 household employees who witnessed verbal and emotional abuse. Peter leaned forward, whispering urgently to his lead attorney. Your Honor, the attorney said smoothly, Mrs. Crane has made these accusations before. They've been investigated and dismissed. She has a documented history of emotional instability and vindictive behavior. This is clearly an attempt to extort money from my client using fabricated evidence and false claims. They weren't dismissed, Elena said, her voice rising. They were buried because my husband paid off the investigators. That's defamation, another of Peter's attorneys jumped in. Your Honor, we request that Mrs. Crane be sanctioned for making baseless and damaging accusations against our client in open court. Raymond was about to respond when movement caught his eye. Jade Morrison stood up, her expression twisted with contempt. This is absolutely ridiculous, she announced loudly. Everyone in this room knows Elena is lying. Peter is a good man, a successful businessman, a pillar of this community. She's just a bitter, jealous wife who can't accept that he found someone better. Raymond's jaw tightened. Miss Morrison, you are not a party to this proceeding. Sit down. Now. I'm the woman Peter loves, Jade shot back. That makes me more relevant than some gold-digging liar trying to steal money she never earned. She gestured dismissively at Elena. You want to talk about abuse? She abused Peter for years with her constant demands, her neediness, her pathetic attempts to control him, that is enough. Raymond's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Bailiff, if Miss Morrison speaks out of turn again, remove her from this courtroom. Jade's perfectly made-up face flushed with anger. She turned toward Elena, who had started organizing her evidence folder with trembling hands. You think you're going to win? Jade hissed, stepping into the aisle between the tables. You think any judge is going to side with you over Peter? He owns this town. His lawyers are the best money can buy. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. Just a stupid, worthless, she shoved Elena hard. Both hands to the shoulders, with deliberate force that sent Elena stumbling backward. Elena's pregnant belly threw off her balance. She tried to catch herself, failed, and went down hard on the marble floor. The crack of impact echoed through the stunned courtroom. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Raymond was on his feet, his gavel slamming down with enough force to splinter wood. Bailiff! Restrain that woman immediately! His voice carried such authority that 3 bailiffs rushed forward at once. Jade stood over Elena, still smiling, still confident that Peter's money would make this disappear like everything else. Peter rose slowly from his seat, straightening his tie, his expression showing more annoyance than concern. He didn't even glance at Elena on the floor. Didn't check if his pregnant wife was injured. Didn't show even a flicker of human decency. Your Honor, his lead attorney said, smooth as ever, I sincerely apologize for this disruption. If we could take a brief recess to allow everyone to calm down, no. Raymond's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. No recess. Someone get medical attention for Mrs. Crane. Now. A court clerk rushed to Elena's side, kneeling beside her. Elena was conscious, her hands pressed protectively against her belly, her face grey with pain and shock. Miss Morrison, Raymond said, his voice dangerously quiet, you are under arrest for assault and battery on a pregnant woman. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. You can't arrest me. Jade shrieked, her confidence finally cracking. Peter, tell him. Tell him he can't do this. Peter finally spoke, his voice dripping with condescension. Your Honor, with all due respect, I'm certain we can resolve this unfortunate incident without resorting to criminal charges. My companion was simply startled and your companion, Raymond, interrupted coldly, just committed felony assault in my courtroom. On a pregnant woman. In front of multiple witnesses and active court recording equipment. She's going to jail. He nodded to the bailiffs. Remove her. Book her. Set bail at $500,000. $500,000. Jade's voice went shrill. For an accident. For a deliberate assault I witnessed with my own eyes. Raymond turned his attention to Peter. And Mr. Crane, since you seem more concerned with protecting your mistress than with checking on your pregnant wife, let me clarify something for you. Peter's lead attorney grabbed his arm, trying to signal him to stay quiet, but Peter shook him off. Your Honor, I don't know what kind of court you think you're running here, but that's the problem, Mr. Crane. Raymond allowed himself a cold smile. You have absolutely no idea what kind of court I'm running. Or who I am. Your Honor, the lead attorney interjected carefully, visiting judges typically don't retain cases beyond their assigned day. If you're showing bias toward one party, I'm not a visiting judge. Raymond looked directly at Peter, watching the arrogant confidence in the millionaire's face. I'm Chief Justice Raymond Castellano of the Florida Supreme Court. I arranged to be in this courtroom today specifically for this case. And the woman you just allowed your mistress to assault is my daughter. The silence that followed was absolute. Peter's face went from tan to ashen in seconds. His attorneys looked like they'd been struck by lightning. Jade stopped struggling against the bailiffs, her mouth falling open in shock. And Elena, still on the floor with the court clerk supporting her, looked up at the bench with tears streaming down her face and recognition dawning in her eyes. Dad. The word came out as barely a whisper. Raymond felt his carefully maintained judicial mask crack completely. Hello, Elena. I'm sorry it took me 18 years to find you. But I'm here now. And I promise you, sweetheart, justice will be served. He turned back to Peter, letting the millionaire see exactly how badly he'd miscalculated. Mr. Crane, your wife is entitled to 50% of all marital assets under Florida law. I'm issuing an immediate order freezing all of your bank accounts, investment portfolios, and business holdings pending a complete financial audit. I'm also ordering a full investigation into your wife's allegations of financial misconduct, fraud, and abuse. And if I find even one shred of evidence that you've harmed my daughter, I will use every legal tool at my disposal to ensure you spend significant time behind bars. You can't do this, Peter said, but his voice shook. This is blatant bias. Conflict of interest. I'll have you removed from this case. I'll appeal to whom, Mr. Crane? Raymond's voice was silk over steel. I'm the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. Who exactly do you plan to appeal to? My colleagues, who've known me for 23 years and trust my judgment implicitly. The Judicial Review Board that I helped establish? The governor who appointed me? He leaned forward slightly. File whatever motions you want. Appeal to whoever you think will listen. Hire 10 more attorneys if it makes you feel better. But understand this, you just allowed your mistress to assault a pregnant woman in my courtroom. That woman happens to be my daughter. And you are about to discover that all the money in Florida won't save you from the consequences of that mistake. Raymond turned to Elena's young court-appointed attorney, who looked like he'd just won the lottery and couldn't quite believe it. Counselor, I'm ordering emergency spousal support of $50,000 per month, effective immediately, to continue until this case is resolved. Mrs. Crane will also have exclusive use of the marital home, continuation of all health insurance and benefits, full access to one vehicle, and a restraining order prohibiting Mr. Crane from any contact except through attorneys. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, the young attorney stammered. Absolutely understood. Excellent. Raymond looked at the paramedics who'd just rushed into the courtroom. Please examine Mrs. Crane thoroughly. If she needs to go to the hospital, make it happen. Bill it to Mr. Crane's frozen accounts. He stood, and everyone in the courtroom rose automatically. This court is in recess for 1 hour. Mrs. Crane, after you've been examined, I'd like to see you in my chambers. We have 18 years to catch up on. As Raymond left the bench, he heard the courtroom erupt behind him. Peter's frantic whispers to his attorneys. Jade being dragged away, still protesting her arrest. Reporters already on their phones, calling in the story that would dominate Florida headlines by evening: Chief Justice's long-lost daughter found in divorce court, assaulted by husband's mistress. But all Raymond cared about was the daughter he'd finally found. The daughter he'd failed to protect for 18 years. The daughter he would move heaven and earth to protect now. Peter Crane thought his millions made him untouchable. He was about to learn that some things, justice, family, and a father's love, mattered more than any amount of money. And Raymond Castellano had both the power and the motivation to prove it. The paramedics declared Elena and the baby stable, though they recommended monitoring for the next 24 hours. Elena refused hospitalization, insisted she was fine, needed to stay for the hearing. What she really needed was to understand how the judge presiding over her divorce was the father she'd been told was dead. Judge Raymond Castellano's chambers were nothing like Elena expected. She'd imagined cold marble and intimidating law books. Instead, she found warm oak paneling, photographs of what looked like hiking trips and charity events, and a wall of commendations that spoke to a career built on integrity. He stood when she entered, and Elena saw him clearly for the first time without the bench between them. 62 years old, with silver hair and eyes the same shade of dark brown as hers. Tall, distinguished, with the bearing of someone accustomed to authority but the expression of someone carrying deep regret. "Please, sit," he said gently, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "How are you feeling?" "The paramedic said you and the baby are okay, but you're alive." Elena's voice cracked. "My whole life, my mother told me you were dead. That you died in a car accident when I was 2. She showed me a death certificate. A grave." Raymond's face contorted with pain. "Your mother was protecting you the only way she knew how." "From me?" "From you? Why would she need to protect me from my own father?" He sat heavily in the chair across from her, suddenly looking every one of his 62 years. "Because 18 years ago, I was a different man. Ambitious. Ruthless. So focused on building my career that I failed to see what it was doing to our family." Elena listened as her father told a story she'd never known. How he and Sarah had married young, both law students with big dreams. How she'd supported him through the bar exam, through his first cases, through the grueling years of building a reputation. "Your mother wanted a family," Raymond said quietly. "I wanted a judgeship. When you were born, I was in the middle of my first appointment hearing. I missed it. Missed your birth because I was convincing a selection committee I deserved a seat on the bench." She must have been devastated. She was. And it didn't get better. "I missed first steps because of trials. First words because of conferences. Your second birthday because I was arguing a case before the appellate court." He looked at Elena with eyes full of old shame. "Your mother begged me to slow down. To choose family over career. I told her I was building a future for us. That the sacrifices would be worth it. But they weren't. They weren't. Sarah filed for divorce when you were 3. Joint custody. She got primary placement, I got weekends and holidays. Except I kept missing those too. Kept choosing work over the daughter I claimed to love." Elena felt tears building. This story was familiar in painful ways. She'd lived a version of it with Peter. "When you were 4, your mother met someone else," Raymond continued. "A teacher. Kind, present, everything I wasn't. She asked if she could relocate with you to Georgia for his job. I refused. Fought it in court. Used my legal connections to block the move. You kept her from the man she loved. I kept her from happiness out of spite and pride. And she..." He swallowed hard. "She disappeared. Took you in the middle of the night. Changed both your names. Vanished so completely it was like you'd never existed. You looked for us. For 18 years. Hired investigators. Filed missing persons reports. Used every resource I had. Raymond's voice broke. I thought if I could just find you, I could explain. Apologize. Prove I'd changed. But your mother was careful. Brilliant. She covered your tracks perfectly. Elena processed this, understanding her mother's actions in new context. She never spoke about you. Just said you died and left us alone. She probably believed I was dead to you. And maybe I was. The father you deserved died in ambition and selfishness long before your mother took you away. He looked at Elena directly. I'm sorry. For failing you. For failing your mother. For not being the father you needed. How did you find me? 6 months ago, one of my law clerks was processing divorce filings. He saw your name, Relena Castellano Crane. Your mother as Sarah Castellano, deceased. He brought it to me because he knew I'd been searching. Raymond pulled out a folder. I've been monitoring your situation since. Quietly. From a distance. Watching you struggle with Peter. Seeing the signs of control and abuse. Wanting to help but not knowing if you'd want anything to do with the father who abandoned you. Elena stared at the folder. What's in there? Everything. Financial records showing Peter has been systematically draining your accounts for years. Evidence of affairs with at least 9 different women, not just Jade. Documentation that his business is failing, that he's been using marital assets to cover losses. And he hesitated. Evidence that he's been planning to divorce you and claim you're mentally unfit to raise your child. The betrayal hit Elena like a physical blow. He wants to take my baby. Wanted. Past tense. That plan ended the moment Jade assaulted you in my courtroom. Raymond's voice hardened. Elena, I need you to understand something. I can't preside over your divorce. The conflict of interest is too clear. But I can make certain you get the best representation Florida has to offer. I can ensure the judge who does take your case has all the evidence. And I can use my position to guarantee Peter faces consequences for what he's done. Why? Elena asked. Why help me now after all these years? Because you're my daughter. Because I failed you once and I won't fail you again. And because? He pulled out a photograph, old and creased. It showed a young man holding a toddler, both of them laughing. Because I never stopped loving you. Never stopped hoping I'd get the chance to be your father again. Elena took the photograph, seeing herself as a child, seeing the love in her father's eyes that she'd been told never existed. Tell me about Peter, Raymond said gently. How did you end up with him? Elena took a shaky breath. Mom died 2 years ago. Cancer. I was alone, grieving, working as a paralegal to pay off her medical bills. Peter was a client at the firm. Charming. Successful. He pursued me relentlessly. Love bombing, Raymond said quietly. Classic abuser tactic. I didn't see it. I was so lonely after losing Mom. He made me feel special. Valued. We married after 6 months. Elena's voice went flat, reciting facts to avoid feeling them. The control started immediately. He wanted me to quit my job. Said his wife didn't need to work. I thought it was romantic at first. But it was isolation. Complete isolation. He moved me into his house, away from my friends. Monitored my phone. Gave me an allowance like I was a child. Criticized everything, my clothes, my cooking, my opinions. She touched her belly. When I got pregnant, I thought it would change things. Instead, he started staying out nights. Flaunting Jade and the others. Making it clear I was replaceable. Why did you finally file for divorce? Because I realized my baby deserves better. Deserves a mother who's strong enough to leave. Who won't teach them that love means accepting cruelty? Elena met her father's eyes. Mom spent my whole childhood protecting me from you. Teaching me to be independent, to never rely on anyone, to be strong. I forgot those lessons with Peter. But I'm remembering now. Raymond smiled, sad and proud at once. Your mother was an extraordinary woman. I'm sorry you lost her. Sorrier that I never got to tell her I understood why she left. That she was right. She kept journals, Elena said suddenly. About you. About why she ran. I found them after she died. She wrote that leaving was the hardest thing she'd ever done because she still loved you. But she loved me more. Loved me enough to choose my well-being over her own heart. I wish I'd been worthy of that love. Maybe you are now. Elena looked at the man who'd spent 18 years searching for her. Maybe we both get a second chance. A knock interrupted them. Elena's young court-appointed attorney stuck his head in, looking nervous. Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Peter Crane's legal team is requesting an emergency hearing. They're filing a motion to have you recused from any involvement in this case due to conflict of interest. Raymond's expression hardened. Of course they are. What else? They're also demanding Miss Morrison be released on her own recognizance, claiming the $500,000 bail is excessive and punitive. Tell them motions will be heard tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Miss Morrison's bail stands. Raymond looked at Elena. And find my daughter real representation. I want Catherine Morrison from Morrison Legal Associates. Yes, same last name as Jade, no relation. She's the best family law attorney in the state. Tell her I'm calling in the favor she owes me. After the attorney left, Raymond turned back to Elena. You're not going back to that house tonight. It's not safe. Peter will be furious about the account freeze and the bail. Where can you stay? I don't have anywhere. Peter made sure I didn't keep friends who could help. Then you'll stay at my house. I have a guest suite. Private. Secure. And? He smiled slightly. I'd like the chance to know my daughter. If you're willing. Elena thought about the father she believed was dead, the father who'd failed her mother but was trying desperately to be better, the father who was the only family she had left. I'd like that too, she said. What neither of them knew was that Peter Crane wasn't just furious about the court proceedings. He was terrified. Because the accounts Raymond had frozen contained evidence of financial crimes Peter had committed over the past decade. Crimes that would send him to federal prison if discovered. And Peter would do anything, absolutely anything, to keep those secrets buried. Even if it meant destroying the Chief Justice and his daughter in the process. Peter Crane's carefully constructed empire began crumbling at 4:47 p.m. when his accountant called with news that made his blood run cold. Every account is frozen, Marcus Webb said, his voice tight with panic. Personal, business, investment portfolios, everything. But Peter, there's a bigger problem. The forensic auditors the court appointed? They're requesting documentation going back 10 years. Tax returns, business filings, investment records, all of it. Peter stood in his downtown office, looking out over the Palm Beach skyline, his reflection in the glass showing a man who'd just realized he was standing on the edge of a cliff. They can't access the offshore accounts, Peter said. Those are protected. The court order specifically mentions all financial holdings, foreign and domestic. If they dig deep enough, they'll find the Cayman transfers. The shell corporations. Everything. Marcus paused. Peter, if they discover what we've been doing, we're both going to federal prison. Then make sure they don't discover it. Peter's voice went cold. Destroy the documents. Wipe the servers. Do whatever you have to do. That's obstruction of justice. If we're caught, if we don't do it, we're definitely caught. Make it happen. Tonight. Peter hung up and immediately called his lead attorney, Mitchell Price. We need to get that judge recused, Peter said without preamble. Today. Now. Whatever it takes. Peter is the Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. Getting him recused is going to be nearly impossible, especially given that he arranged to be assigned to this case specifically. He can't preside over his own daughter's divorce. That's textbook conflict of interest. He's already said he won't preside. He's transferring the case to another judge. But he's still involved in the criminal charges against Jade, the financial investigation, everything else. Mitchell's voice carried a warning. You need to understand something. Raymond Castellano has been on the bench for 23 years. He's respected, connected, and now personally motivated to destroy you. Fighting him head-on is suicide. Then we don't fight head-on. We fight dirty. Peter's mind was already calculating angles. Find something on him. Affairs, financial impropriety, anything we can use to discredit him. Peter, I'm advising you as your attorney, I don't need advice. I need results. Find his weakness or find me an attorney who will. Peter ended the call and immediately dialed another number. One he'd hoped never to use. The man who answered had a voice like gravel. Crane. Didn't expect to hear from you. I need information on someone. Deep background. Everything they don't want anyone to know. Who? Chief Justice Raymond Castellano. The man laughed. You're kidding. You want dirt on a Supreme Court justice? That's not cheap, and it's not safe. I'll pay whatever it costs. And I need it fast. 24 hours. 48 minimum. And this is going to cost you $200,000. Fine. Just find something I can use. After hanging up, Peter poured himself 3 fingers of scotch and tried to think. The frozen accounts were a problem, but he had cash reserves Castellano didn't know about. The audit was worse, but maybe Marcus could bury the evidence in time. The real issue was Elena. His weak, pathetic wife had somehow become a threat. Had found the courage to file for divorce, to stand up in court, to expose him. And now she had the protection of one of the most powerful men in the state legal system. Peter's phone buzzed with a text from Jade, who'd been released on bail an hour ago after her father had mortgaged his house to cover it. Jade, we need to talk. This is your fault. You said she was nothing. You said this would be easy. Peter ignored the message. Jade had become a liability the moment she'd shoved Elena in open court. He needed to distance himself, claim she'd acted without his knowledge, throw her under the bus if necessary to save himself. Another text came through, this one from a number he didn't recognize. Unknown, saw the news. Your wife is the Chief Justice's daughter? You're screwed, Crane. Good luck with that. It was starting. The vultures circling. Business associates distancing themselves. Social connections evaporating. Peter could feel his carefully built reputation crumbling in real time. His office door opened without warning. His assistant, Maria Chen, stood there with an expression he'd never seen before. Fear mixed with something that looked like satisfaction. Mr. Crane, there are FBI agents in the lobby. They have a warrant to seize business records. FBI? Peter's voice came out strangled. For what? Wire fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering, according to the warrant. Maria held out an envelope. And this is my resignation, effective immediately. I've been subpoenaed to testify about financial irregularities I've witnessed over the past 3 years. She placed the envelope on his desk and walked out, leaving Peter staring at the words that would destroy him. Subpoenaed. She was going to testify. Against him. The loyal assistant who'd helped him hide money, falsify records, cover his tracks for years. Castellano had gotten to her somehow. Had offered her immunity in exchange for cooperation. Peter's phone rang again. His real estate partner, James Jew. I'm out, James said without preamble. Liquidating my stake in our joint ventures. My lawyers are drawing up the paperwork now. You can't just watch me. I'm not going down with your sinking ship, Peter. Whatever you've been doing, whatever the feds are investigating, I want no part of it. James paused. You should have kept your personal life separate from business. Assaulting your pregnant wife in court? Getting your mistress arrested? That's the kind of publicity that destroys everything. The line went dead. Peter stood alone in his office as the sun set over Palm Beach, watching his empire dissolve like sand. 24 hours ago, he'd been a millionaire with a beautiful mistress and a wife he controlled completely. Now he was facing federal investigation, criminal charges, social exile, and financial ruin. All because Elena had found the courage to file for divorce. All because a judge he'd never heard of turned out to be the one man in Florida with both the power and the motivation to destroy him. All because he'd underestimated the quiet, pregnant woman he'd spent for years breaking down. Peter looked at the framed photo on his desk. Him shaking hands with the governor at a charity event. Him playing golf with city councilmen. Him accepting an award for Businessman of the Year. All of it was about to become worthless. Unless he could find a way to fight back. His phone buzzed one more time. The investigator he'd hired. Investigator found something. Not on Castellano directly, but on his daughter. Call me. Peter dialed immediately. What did you find? Elena worked as a paralegal at Morrison & Associates before you married her. She had access to confidential client files. I found evidence she may have shared privileged information with you during your courtship. Information you used in business deals. Peter's mind raced. If Elena had violated attorney-client privilege, she could be disbarred from any legal career. Could be charged with crimes herself. Could be painted as corrupt, untrustworthy, an unfit mother. Are you sure? I've got emails, file access logs, everything. She sent you documents from 3 different client files. Real estate deals you later bid on. You used insider information she provided. Send me everything. Tonight. This is going to cost, I don't care what it costs. Send it. Peter hung up, feeling hope flicker for the first time since Jade had shoved Elena in court. He'd been backed into a corner. But cornered animals were the most dangerous. If Castellano wanted to destroy him, fine. Peter would destroy Elena's credibility first. Would prove she was just as corrupt as he was. Would use her own mistakes against her. And if that didn't work, if the legal battle couldn't be won through evidence and manipulation, Peter had other resources. Darker resources. People who solved problems in ways courts couldn't touch. He made one more call. To a man whose services he'd used twice before, in situations where business competitors had needed to be convinced to back down. I have a job, Peter said when the man answered. High profile. Risky. But I'll pay triple your usual rate. I'm listening. There's a pregnant woman who needs to have an accident. Something that looks natural. Something that can't be traced back to me. The man was quiet for a long moment. This is the judge's daughter you're talking about. The one all over the news. Yes. That's not risky. That's suicide. Every law enforcement agency in Florida is going to be watching her. Which is why I'm offering triple your rate. $1 million to make this problem go away. $2 million. Half up front. And I need 2 weeks to plan this properly. You have 1 week. And if this goes wrong, if it comes back to me, it won't. I'm a professional. But Crane? After this, we're done. Don't ever call me again. The line went dead. Peter stood in his darkening office, having just crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Having just ordered the murder of his pregnant wife and unborn child. But he was out of options. Out of time. Out of everything except the desperate need to survive. Raymond Castellano thought he'd won. Thought his power and position made him untouchable. He was about to learn that Peter Crane didn't lose gracefully. And that some men, when they had nothing left to lose, became capable of anything. Across town, in Raymond Castellano's secure estate, Elena sat in the guest suite trying to process everything that had happened in the past 8 hours. Her father, alive, powerful, protective, was downstairs making dinner. Making dinner for her like they were a normal family. Like 18 years hadn't been lost. Like everything was fine. But everything wasn't fine. Her phone had been ringing non-stop with calls from numbers she didn't recognize. Reporters. Friends she hadn't spoken to in years. Peter's associates warning her to back down. She'd turned it off finally, but the damage was done. Her private nightmare was now public spectacle. A knock on the door startled her. Elena? Raymond's voice. Dinner's ready if you're hungry. Or I can bring it up if you'd rather be alone. She opened the door, found her father holding a tray with soup and bread, looking uncertain. Vulnerable in a way she'd never seen a judge look. I'd like to eat with you, she said. If that's okay. His smile was worth every moment of awkwardness. I'd like that very much. They ate in the dining room, making careful conversation about safe topics. Books. Movies. The baby. Neither of them knew that in 7 days, Peter's plan would be set in motion. Neither of them knew that the real battle was just beginning. And neither of them knew that the inciting incident, Jade shoving Elena in court, was just the opening move in a war that would test everything they'd found in each other. But they would face it together. Father and daughter. Family. Finally. The FBI agent sitting across from Raymond's desk had a file 3 inches thick. Chief Justice, we've been investigating Peter Crane's financial activities for 6 months, Agent Sarah Mitchell said. Wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering through offshore accounts. We were building a case quietly. Then yesterday's courtroom incident accelerated everything. Raymond leaned forward. What have you found? Crane has been running a Ponzi scheme disguised as real estate investments. $23 million from investors, most of it funneled through shell corporations in the Cayman Islands. He's been using new investor money to pay returns to old investors while spending the rest on his lifestyle. How many victims? 47 so far. Including 3 retirement funds and a children's hospital foundation. Sarah's expression hardened. He's stolen from sick kids to fund his mistress's shopping habits. Raymond felt cold rage settle in his chest. When are you arresting him? We were planning to wait another month, but given the assault charges and the divorce proceedings, we're moving up the timeline. 72 hours. We'll have enough to indict on multiple federal counts. Make it 48, Raymond said. My daughter isn't safe while he's free. After Sarah left, Raymond's head of security, Thomas Brooks, entered with a tablet showing surveillance footage. Sir, we've identified 3 individuals conducting surveillance on your property over the past 2 days. One is a known private investigator Peter Crane has used before. The other 2. Thomas paused. Have criminal records. One for assault, one for arson. They are not investigators. Raymond's blood went cold. He's planning something. It appears so. I've tripled security. No one gets within 100 yards of this house without us knowing. But sir, Elena can't stay locked up here forever. She has doctor's appointments, the baby's due in 2 months, I know what she needs. Raymond stood, paced to the window. I also know her husband just hired criminals to watch my house. What's your assessment? Worst case? He's planning an abduction or worse. Best case? Intimidation tactics to force her to drop the divorce. Either way, she's in danger. Raymond made a decision. Contact the U.S. Marshals. I want witness protection protocols. Safe house, rotating security, the works. For a divorce case. For a federal fraud case where the defendant has demonstrated willingness to use violence and has the resources to make problems disappear. Raymond looked at Thomas. Peter Crane is desperate. And desperate men are capable of anything. That evening, Raymond sat Elena down in his study and explained the situation. He watched her face go pale as he detailed the surveillance, the criminal associates, the federal investigation. He's going to try to hurt me, she said quietly, her hand on her belly. Hurt the baby. Not while I'm alive. Raymond took her hand. I've arranged protection. Safe house. Marshals. Everything you need to stay safe until Peter is in custody. I'm tired of running. Tired of hiding. My whole childhood was hiding from you because Mom was afraid. Now I'm hiding from Peter. Elena's voice strengthened. I want to fight. I want to face him in court and watch him lose everything like he tried to make me lose everything. Elena, I'm your daughter, right? That means I'm stubborn and I don't back down from bullies. She met his eyes. You taught me that. Even if you weren't there, genetics made sure I got your spine. Raymond smiled despite his fear. Your mother had spine too. You got it from both sides. Then let me use it. Let me testify against him. Let me help the FBI build their case. Let me show Peter that he can't scare me anymore. Raymond looked at his daughter, fierce, pregnant, determined, and saw the woman she'd become despite everything life had thrown at her. Okay, he said. We fight. Together. But you follow security protocols. You let me protect you. Deal. Deal. What neither of them knew was that Peter's timeline had just accelerated too. The man he'd hired had moved up his schedule. The accident was planned for tomorrow. And Elena would be walking directly into the trap. Elena's doctor's appointment was scheduled for 10 a.m. at Palm Beach Women's Health Center. Raymond had assigned for marshals to accompany her. Thomas Brooks personally drove the armored SUV. Every precaution had been taken. Except the one that mattered. The hitman Peter hired wasn't planning to strike at the medical center. He was planning to strike on the route there, at the intersection of Ocean Boulevard and Worth Avenue, where construction had reduced traffic to a single lane. A perfect choke point. The modified delivery truck sat parked 3 blocks away, its driver watching the street through tinted windows. The plan was simple: T-bone the SUV at 60 miles per hour. Blame brake failure. Walk away from an accident that would kill everyone inside. $1 million for 30 seconds of work. Except the driver, whose real name was Carlos Mendez, had made a critical mistake. He told his girlfriend about the job. And his girlfriend had a conscience. She'd called the FBI tip line at 9:47 a.m. Agent Sarah Mitchell received the call at 9:51 a.m., verified the girlfriend's information in 90 seconds, and made a decision. She called Raymond at 9:53 a.m. We have credible intel of an assassination attempt on Elena. Today. Her route to the doctor's office. We're scrambling a response team, but they're 12 minutes out. You need to abort the trip. Now. Raymond's heart stopped. He was in his chambers at the courthouse, 20 minutes from his house. Get me Thomas. Patch me through to the security detail. The call connected. Thomas's voice came through tense but controlled. Sir, we're 7 minutes from the medical center. Ocean Boulevard approaching Worth Avenue. Turn around. Now. There's a hit planned at that intersection. Turning now. Raymond heard tires squealing through the phone. Elena, we need to. The explosion cut off his words. The sound that came through Raymond's phone was something from a nightmare. Metal tearing. Glass shattering. Elena screaming. Thomas! Raymond shouted. Thomas, report! Static. Then Thomas's voice, strained, truck just rammed a police cruiser that pulled in front of us. Officer down. The truck was meant for us. Repeat, the truck was meant for us. Raymond was already running for his car, phone pressed to his ear. Elena? Is Elena hurt? She's shaken but unharmed. The baby, we need paramedics. They're coming. Stay on the line. Keep her calm. Raymond's hands shook as he started his car. Thomas, who's the driver of that truck? Detained by officers. Sir, he's talking. Says Peter Crane paid him $1 million to kill Elena. Says he has recordings of their conversations. Says he'll testify in exchange for a deal. Raymond felt the world tilt. Peter had ordered his daughter's murder. Had put a price on her head and the head of her unborn child. Get every word he says on record, Raymond said, his voice deadly calm. And Thomas? Don't let Peter Crane leave Palm Beach. I want him in custody within the hour. By the time Raymond reached the scene, police had swarmed the intersection. The delivery truck sat crumpled against a police cruiser that had, through sheer luck and timing, pulled into the intersection seconds before the hit was planned. The officer inside was injured but alive. Carlos Mendez sat in handcuffs in the back of a patrol car, already giving a statement. And Elena sat in the back of the armored SUV, paramedics checking her vitals, her face grey with shock but her hand steady on her belly. The baby's fine, she said when Raymond reached her. Heartbeat strong. I'm fine. We're both fine. Raymond pulled her into his arms, felt her shaking, felt his own hands trembling. He tried to kill you, he said into her hair. Your husband paid someone to murder you and your baby. I know. Elena pulled back, and Raymond saw something new in her eyes. Not fear. Fury. I want to testify against him. I want to tell the FBI everything I know. Every illegal deal, every client he defrauded, every secret I kept because I was too scared to speak. Elena? No. You wanted me to fight? I'm fighting. Peter just made the biggest mistake of his life. He showed everyone exactly what kind of monster he is. She stood, waving away the paramedics. And now I'm going to make sure he pays for it. For this. For everything. Agent Sarah Mitchell approached, her expression grim. Mrs. Crane, we have Carlos Mendez in custody. He's agreed to cooperate fully. We have recordings of phone calls with your husband arranging the hit. We have bank records showing the payment. This is attempted murder for hire. Your husband is looking at life in federal prison. Then arrest him, Elena said. Before he runs. Already done. Agents picked him up at his office 6 minutes ago. Sarah showed them her phone, a photo of Peter in handcuffs, his face twisted with rage. He's being charged with conspiracy to commit murder, wire fraud, money laundering, and about 15 other federal crimes. He's not getting bail. He's not getting out. He's done. Raymond looked at his daughter, shaken but standing, traumatized but fighting, 7 months pregnant and stronger than steel. You did this, he told her. You stood up to him. You refused to be silenced. You saved yourself. We did this, Elena corrected. Together. Family. By evening, the story had exploded across every news outlet in Florida. Millionaire arrested for attempted murder of pregnant wife. The recordings of Peter's conversations with Carlos played on loop. The details of his financial crimes spread like wildfire. Peter Crane's empire didn't just crumble. It detonated. And in a secure room at the FBI field office, Elena Crane gave 14 hours of testimony that would ensure her husband spent the rest of his life behind bars. The midpoint revelation had arrived. Peter had played his final card and lost everything. Now came justice. 3 days after Peter's arrest, his attorneys dropped a bomb that threatened to destroy everything. Raymond sat in his chambers reading the emergency motion with mounting horror. They're claiming prosecutorial misconduct, Catherine Morrison said, having taken over Elena's case as promised. Arguing that you used your position to manipulate the FBI investigation, that evidence was obtained illegally, and that Elena's testimony should be excluded because she was coerced by you. That's absurd. It's also potentially effective. Peter's new attorney is Douglas Hartwell. Former U.S. attorney. He's already filed complaints with the Judicial Oversight Board claiming you abused your power. Catherine's expression was grim. And there's more. They have the emails from when Elena worked as a paralegal. The one showing she shared confidential client information with Peter. Raymond's stomach dropped. What? Peter's claiming Elena was complicit in his fraud. That she knowingly provided insider information he used in business deals. If that's proven, her credibility as a witness is destroyed. Worse, she could face criminal charges herself. She didn't know what he was doing with that information. She was 23, in love with a man who manipulated her. We know that. But on paper, it looks bad. Attorney-client privilege violations. Potential disbarment. The defense is painting her as an accomplice trying to save herself by testifying against Peter. Raymond felt his carefully built case crumbling. What about Carlos Mendez? The hitman? His testimony is independent of Elena. Peter's attorneys are claiming Mendez is lying for a plea deal. That the recordings are fabricated. That the whole assassination attempt was staged by you to frame Peter. Catherine pulled out another document. They've also found 3 witnesses who'll testify that Elena has a history of making false accusations. Friends of Peter's who claim she's emotionally unstable. Bought testimony? Probably. But it creates reasonable doubt. Raymond stood, paced his chambers, feeling control slipping away. What are our options? We fight. We prove Elena didn't understand the implications of sharing those files. We demonstrate the pattern of Peter's manipulation. We Knock interrupted them. Thomas Brooks entered, his face ashen. Sir, there's been an incident. Jade Morrison posted bail. I know. Her father mortgaged everything she showed up at the safe house where Elena was staying. Somehow found the location. Started screaming threats, saying Elena destroyed her life. Security detained her, but... Thomas hesitated. Elena went into early labor. The stress. She's at the hospital now. 29 weeks. The baby's in distress. Raymond felt the floor drop out from under him. I'm going to the hospital. Now. Sir, the judicial oversight hearing is in 2 hours. If you don't appear, they'll interpret it as admission of misconduct. My daughter is in premature labor because Peter's mistress threatened her. The hearing can wait. If you miss it, they could suspend you. Could remove you from the bench pending investigation. Catherine's voice was gentle but firm. Which would give Peter's attorneys exactly what they need, proof that you're too emotionally compromised to have been involved in this case properly. Raymond looked between them, torn between his daughter and his career, between being a father and being a judge. How far is the hospital? He asked quietly. 30 minutes. And the hearing? 15 minutes from here. He had to choose. His daughter, possibly losing her baby, needing her father. Or his career, his reputation, the thing he'd sacrificed everything for, including 18 years with Elena. This time, there was no choice at all. Tell the judicial board I'll reschedule, Raymond said, grabbing his keys. My daughter needs me. Nothing else matters. As he rushed to the hospital, his phone buzzed with messages. Colleagues warning him this was career suicide. Friends saying he was making a mistake. Legal analysts already speculating that Chief Justice Castellano's unprecedented absence from the oversight hearing signaled admission of misconduct. His empire was crumbling just like Peter's had. But this time, it was worth it. Because when Raymond reached the hospital and found Elena in a bed surrounded by doctors, frightened and in pain, he knew he'd made the right choice. Even if it cost him everything. The turning point came from the most unexpected source. While Raymond sat beside Elena's hospital bed, holding her hand as doctors worked to stop her premature labor, his phone rang. Marcus Webb. Peter's accountant. Chief Justice Castellano? I need to speak with you. I have evidence that will change everything. Raymond stepped into the hallway. I'm listening. Peter ordered me to destroy financial records when the audit was announced. I didn't. I copied everything to a secure server. Marcus's voice shook. I have proof that Elena never knew what Peter was doing with the information she shared. She sent him publicly available documents thinking she was helping with legitimate business research. Peter took that information and combined it with illegally obtained insider data from other sources. You can prove she's innocent. Completely. I have emails showing Peter deliberately misled her about what he needed and why. I also have recordings of Peter admitting he manipulated Elena, that she had no knowledge of the fraud schemes. Marcus paused. And I have evidence of the bribery, the Ponzi scheme, everything. 12 years of financial crimes, all documented. Why are you coming forward now? Because Peter tried to have a pregnant woman killed. I signed up to cook books, not be an accessory to murder. And because he threw me under the bus in his plea negotiations, claimed I masterminded everything. Marcus's voice hardened. I'm not going to prison for him. An hour later, Catherine called with more news. 2 of Peter's witnesses just recanted their testimony. Said they were paid to lie. And Jade Morrison violated her bail conditions by going to the safe house. She's back in jail, bail revoked. Then the doctors emerged with smiles. We've stopped the contractions. Mother and baby are stable. She needs bed rest, but both should be fine. Raymond returned to Elena's room, took her hand, and delivered the news that changed everything. We're going to win, he said. Marcus Webb just gave us everything we need to destroy Peter's defense and clear your name completely. Elena started crying. It's really over. Almost. One more fight. But this time, we have all the weapons. For the first time in days, hope returned. The turning point had arrived. And Peter Crane's last desperate gambit had failed. The federal courtroom was packed for Peter Crane's sentencing hearing. Marcus Webb had testified for 6 hours, methodically dismantling every lie Peter's defense had constructed. The evidence was devastating: recordings of Peter bragging about manipulating Elena, documents proving she'd been an unwitting pawn, financial records showing 12 years of systematic fraud. The jury in the criminal trial had deliberated for 90 minutes before returning guilty verdicts on all 23 counts. Now, Judge Patricia Morrison, no relation to Jade, looked at Peter with open disgust. Mr. Crane, you orchestrated a massive fraud scheme that stole $23 million from innocent investors. You emotionally and financially abused your wife for 4 years. You attempted to have her murdered when she dared to leave you. You've shown no remorse, no accountability, only contempt for the law and for human decency. Peter sat in his orange jumpsuit, the millionaire image completely stripped away, leaving only a broken man who'd bet everything and lost. I hereby sentence you to 35 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for 28 years. All assets will be liquidated to pay restitution to your victims and your ex-wife. Peter's head dropped. 35 years. He'd be 73 when released. If he lived that long. Jade Morrison, tried separately for assault and witness intimidation, received 5 years and a permanent restraining order prohibiting contact with Elena. The Judicial Oversight Board, after reviewing all evidence, issued a formal apology to Raymond Castellano, acknowledging that his actions throughout the case had been appropriate and that Peter's attorneys had filed frivolous complaints in bad faith. Raymond's reputation emerged stronger than ever. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Chief Justice Castellano, how does it feel to see justice served? Raymond looked at Elena beside him, 8 months pregnant now, glowing with health and freedom. It feels like my daughter finally gets the life she deserves, he said. Everything else is just details. Elena squeezed his hand. Justice had been served. And they'd won it together.